What have y'all done for us lately? And if there's no answer, the only thing we owe them.
Hey, good evening. Welcome to Let's Talk Too. And tonight, we got Sister Azima here. Can you hear me,
Yes,
Sister Azima? Oh, good. Yeah, because my sound is a little low in my ear. What's going on?
as they say, it's a new year, but we know that's not when the new year starts. But we just want to talk about what did I tell you earlier today? There's a lot of people who are woke, but they may not be enlightened.
Yes, you were talking about, I was telling you how you could feel a
Hmm.
shift. And we were talking about feeling a shift. And
Hmm.
some people, for some of us, is moving very fast.
Hmm.
And then for others, it's like really, really slowing down. They're able to actually be in every moment of their life.
Hmm.
And they could feel the transition. I know that you had shared with me in reference to us melanated folk, understanding this is our time.
Yes, it's our time. It's our time because before there was the secular or organized religion, we were here and we had a very spiritual connection to the frequency which we call God, the divine principles of life. Okay. And knowing that, it allowed us to function better on these planetary bodies within these galaxies. And like I was telling you, Brother Quentin, um, the Milky Way and Sagittarius Dwarf, they're colliding and they have been colliding for millions of years. You know, one galaxy is not going to swallow up the other one like we're taught. The Big Bang, boom, it's over, done, catastrophic events. No, it's gradually merging, and we will be gradually merging with Andromeda.
Mm.
So part of that you're seeing now, we're seeing where the poles do shift, and this is not an uncommon situation. Our planet has been through this before. Your planet is billions of years old, not millions or hundreds of thousands or even 5 to 7,000 years old. No, man has been here. Mankind, humanity has been here a very long time. And the purpose of the what we call awoke or woke is that you're learning to listen to that internal voice. We all have it. Some of us say, I ain't got it, but you do. You go over to visit some family member or a close friend and you walk in and you're like, I can't be here long. You are feeling those people's emotions, their frequency, their energy. You go in, do what you have to do, and you leave. And
And
you
you
know what I'm
might leave without doing what you gotta do. You might go in and be like, oh, I gotta get up
saying?
out
I
of
got
here. I'll
so
be
the
back. I
bottom
left something in the car.
right. I left something in the car. I got to go home. Mama's gone. I mean, whatever. You're gonna do that because you are feeling those people's emotions. They are physically releasing those emotions into the air, and so you don't go. You don't go any place that you don't feel comfortable. So what's happening is that we're coming back to that place of being enlightened when we are awake or aware, we take the time to look at and discern what it is I need to do.
Mm.
There's an adage, and there's quite a few, but this one always sticks out in my mind. And I don't know who coined the adage, or how long ago it was, but I don't know if some of you have heard the saying, I have been born in this world, but I am not of this world.
Mm.
And what that means is that all of us are born. There was a time we were born into what we call the world, the galaxies, the universes, but we were also bifurcated from one energy. So that made us of the same energy. As time goes on, we are bifurcating, having children, reproducing ourselves. But the energy, it diminishes each time. So therefore, you may not be of the core energy anymore, but you're still connected to that energy. And that's the whole purpose of being enlightened, is to know where you're connected. Secular religion, and I'm not knocking anybody's belief system because that's what it is, it's a belief system, tends to put us in categories of just three main religions: the Islamic religion or Muslim religion, the Christian religion, and the Jewish religion. And religion, when you look it up, and sometimes I want people to go back and look in books and not just on Wikipedia. Digital knowledge can change. Anything can happen to it. So if you can go back and physically find encyclopedias or reference books, start looking up religion, and it'll tell you is to reach back to the teachings of those that have come before you, to realign yourselves to your ancestors. If your ancestors were going through problems or had a lot of misinformation, then you're not going to align to that true place where you need to be. So we're here to have the internal moment of being woke, but to become absolutely enlightened when we are woke. So we bring balance, harmony, and truth to your life,
Mm.
to who you are, what it is you have to do, and how that fits in to the bigger scope of what's going on. You have to know how that fits in. Okay. There are some of us that are just mothering and healing. There are some of us that are just blunt. And what it is that you can relate to those energies, and you anthropomorphize them. That means you will identify them as a lion or a snake or a weasel or a chicken or a rabbit. And you we're not talking about the animal itself. You're talking about the energy that those animals bring to the table, how they fit and work within the bigger picture of what we call nature. And nature it means netaru. Netaru, or the vibratory frequencies that make life what it is. So nature is derived from the word neter, netaru. And netaru means the vibratory frequency that makes life as we know it. And so you've also heard the saying, there's nothing new under the sun. Well, that's
Mhm.
true. The sun has been here a very long time. It's not going to end like they said in 1999 or when the Mayan calendar was supposed to do its thing in 1995. No, it just means that it's the end of an era or a time period, roughly 3,820 years, somewhere in there. It's the end of a concept, how people perceived things to be. And therefore, they were very rooted in that concept, and they hung on to the concept. And you'll see people still hanging on because they're not able to, out of fear, um, out of the inability to want to psychologically change, to emotionally change. So they will hang on to things. And we have to marvel at a lot of things. I marvel at the fact that my grandfather was born right at the cusp of slavery. I knew him. I knew his sisters. Never in his life did he impose the feeling of slavery upon his children. Therefore, they never imposed it upon us. And I never gave my children any indication that life was going to be hard because you're melanated or because they consider you black or whatever. I do remember before, like I said once before, we were called Negroes. I didn't know what African American was till Jesse Jackson coined the
Let me
phrase. But until,
let me ask you a question, and I know that this wasn't the overall topic of the discussion, but I know you like to give me a lot of advice behind the scenes as well as when we do shows, right?
okay.
How would you tell the younger people how to have that balance with understanding what was done to us and getting our reparative justice, whether it's any type of justice or injustice done, we want a justice done. How are we going to balance that with falling right on that edge of being victim mentality? Because sometimes just for example, sometimes I see we tend to think everything could be a racial issue and it may not be. And somebody
Mhm,
just may not like you just because of who you are. It ain't got nothing to do with what
mhm,
you look like or who you look like. You could just be a person. How and then we fall into that victim mentality type of thing and a woe is me type of attitude. What would you suggest or advise us how to be able to balance that?
mhm. Well, for me, it would be difficult to explain to other people. Um, Raising my daughters in that environment, it's not hard for them to understand. Um, what I do teach you in conflict resolution, or even if you're a person that's very devout to your Christian belief, it's not about turning the other cheek. What it's about is that letting go of that anger. As long as you hang on to that anger, the only person who's going to be mad is you. And the only person who's going to carry that hate will be you. And even though you may lash out at other people, you will lose friends, family, because they'll be like, I can't, I'm not going to be around Sean.
Sister Azima froze you guys. Yeah, I wanted to ask her that question. Hopefully, Drea, she'll continue to expound on it when she comes back, but she froze. Unfortunately, we're trying to figure out why she keeps freezing, but we're gonna try to work on that soon. We've been working on it. I thought she wasn't gonna freeze. She had froze earlier before we even went live, but she froze. But until then, I'm gonna just have this break thing up until she returns, then we'll come back on. Everybody in the chat, everybody that's watching, thanks for being patient with us. I know this is really tough. Vera, they call me Milk. I'm gonna put your question up once she comes back. Everybody that watching, just continue to be patient with us when this happens.
Okay, so I know it's harder to do than you think. It's easy to say, but it's hard to do. Um, when you are relieving yourself, it's not that you don't forget. You just learn to forgive. You're not forgiving those people. You're forgiving yourself for hanging on to that anger because anger does cause you to have physical ailments.
Mm,
Over time, if you're a very angry person, as time goes on, you will end up with whatever the weakest part of your body, that's where you're going to see problems. Lupus, you'll end up with diabetes, or issues with cancer, or problems with bones, arthritis, a myriad of things. What we fail to understand is that the human body is a perfectly designed machine, and the chakras represent the major organs that vibrate to a certain frequency. And so, if you hang on to that anger, you're going to vibrate those frequencies within your human self, inside of you. How do you tell a young person? You just have to say it to them over and over. Sometimes rote memory is what helps, but also showing them how there are other ways to address the issue at hand.
Yeah, because one of the reasons why I asked you that question, Sister Azima, is because you come across people who don't see everything in the same lens that you see it,
Correct.
and they're like the Sister Vera put up her daughter. She said she has an 18-year-old daughter who has a lot of multicultural friends, and
Hmm.
she don't look at anything racially. And some people will say, look at that situation and be like, "Oh, you ain't living in the real world." That is her real world. That is her reality.
Hmm.
That's the people that she sees every day, intermingles with, go to school with, shops with. So
Hmm.
she may not look at anything that happens, good or bad, to her with a racial lens.
Okay, so if we were the only people on this planet at one point, humanity was the darker shades of wheat. And then we still disliked each other. We still captured each other. We still murdered each other. Would you call that racial? Or would you call that tribal?
We probably might say
Or
it's
would you
tribal.
base that on culture? Okay. Then we talk about the Anunnaki, other off-world beings that came here at a specific time. And they had to develop, for lack of a better word, they called them slaves, people who would serve just them. And in doing so, they made them a myriad of colors to fit their particular narrative. So if I was the blue skin avatar, I want folks who had blue skin that looked like me, because I would let them know I am your God, your leader, or whatever. So now when you come along and meet them, many of them are going to be just like you. They're going to have the same wants and desires, but they also know that they may not be able to get away from their master, where you may not have a master, and that can cause them to be angry because you don't have it. But that doesn't change who you are. The only person who has control over you is yourself. And I know for young people, you're like, what do you mean? When your parents are raising you and you get to a certain point in your life, they no longer have control over your thoughts. They give you the best that they can for you to be able to make it through. If you're living your life, and I hate to give this example, like the movie Empire, and I think that's what bothers me, but the actors were great. They made you dislike them, all of that. You got into the meat of the program. But what happened to the programs like Living Single, or like Bill Cosby when he used to have the Cosby Show, or other programs that gave you an opportunity to see positive and negative aspects of your own people without them being so far um, in the comedic realm, like Tyler Perry is with Medea, or so far over that no matter what goes on in their personal life, they're broken. They got to be women robbing a bank. The very low vibrate, the very low aspect of humanity. That is all.
Do you think that and we know that we're great creators. It's so many of our stories and of our story culturally
Mhm.
that we can tell, we'll buy. will love, will cheer, will champion them.
Hmm.
Do you think that those type of stories that are very high vibrational, very conscious, as we would say, conscious for us to bring our awareness all the way up where it should be, do you think that those films aren't being greenlighted, or you think, how do you look at that? Do you think it's being stopped, or
I,
people just aren't presenting that form of art?
I think anytime when you go back and look at Agenda 21, really read it, the New World Order, we heard it out of the mouth of the Clintons. We heard it out of the mouth of the Bushes. We heard it out of Obama's mouth. I heard it out of Ronald Reagan's mouth. And he went to the people, which they talk about Project 2025, from the Heritage Foundation. He is the only president I know that implemented any aspect of the Heritage Foundation um, programming or concepts. They are a think tank. So if you, and I don't want to get into all this long historical stuff, but around the world, America has been the strong arm of the law. Let's just lay it like it is. And we thought it was our place to have everybody adhere to us. And then as time goes on, you realize that what we thought might have been virtuous ideas and concepts, they were pretty much tainted. And as time went on, the elders like us, even like you, or the people directly a little bit younger than you, they're like, oh my God, it's nothing like what I thought. And so if you've always been in control, what is the natural inclination you have? I'm going to stay in control by any and all means necessary. If I have to turn on television and make everybody look and sound the way I want them to sound, like they're
Mhm.
out of New York, or when you have any type of anytime you have um, social media networks that can decide what's correct information and what's incorrect information. When everybody was afraid of, the COVID stuff, 1918 was the swine flu. It killed millions of people across the planet. The bubonic plague. So it's not like the first time these things have reared their head. They've been here. But it depends on who's in control. And the New World Order people now, NOW, the New World Order people, they have their own agenda, whatever that agenda is. And so they're going to be sure certain things are programmed to you. Like all of the Hispanic stuff for a long time, it just sickened me to see that they were like subservient to everybody. Oh my God. Oh, mama, I don't want to paraphrase them, but you would see them going like, Mama, see, we have to do this. You got to be good to Mr. So-and-so, or he's going to make sure you get out of this country. That was crazy. When I worked for NASA, I worked with people all over the world, highly intelligent, genius people from all over the world, and they did not act like that, which is why I came to realize that America wanted a certain image of us. And our image was to be boots on the ground. Don't get me wrong. My heart goes out to these soldiers who go into places where I know I would never go. And I thank them for being there. But the problem is that even they are programmed to do certain things. And it leads them to come back. I mean, you send them out to fight in a war. You bring them home. And at one time, you made sure they got some type of funding to build a house, but you didn't do it for everybody. You didn't do it for the Latinos, okay? You didn't do it for the Cubans or the Japanese, and you didn't do it for the Black people, the Negroes. So they didn't get the same benefit. I also remember when we went to Vietnam, and when soldiers came back, nobody liked them. Nobody. And they ended up on the streets, homeless, ill, mentally ill, couldn't get any of the services. So that gave me a different perspective of America. And then that's when I began to learn that there is America, the Republic, which lives under the constitutional law, and America, the corporation, which we all um, endear ourselves to. And so we have to we have to do our own research. Sometimes we just have to do our own research and look at things in a broad perspective. And like that sister there who said her daughter meets a lot of people. I met a lot of people around the world. It changed my perspective, and I realized that racism is a condition. Okay. There are prejudiced people. There are going to always be prejudiced people. You can't change that. They're here to serve a purpose, and their purpose to help is to help you learn. It's to challenge you. Okay. But racism, how they change the words. I'll give you an example. When I grew up, I heard people say faggot. Today, you think a faggot is a person that might be homosexual. A faggot was anybody who was wealthy enough to buy sticks, because a faggot was a bundle of sticks. If you had a bundle of sticks, you could have heat in your house. You could cook your food. That's what a faggot was. You'll never hear that word used in that manner. So we have allowed certain groups of people to rise to the top. Like they say, the cream comes to the top of the cup, and they get to decide what it is you need to learn. How can they make that decision for you? And that was how we ended up being African Americans and Black folks. We were Negro. Negro automatically means melanated skinned people. And I laugh. I mean, I was a Negro. I was already Black. You didn't have to call me Black. That's what Negro meant. Negro, Black. La Negro means but the Black. Douglas means the Black. So we already had words that defined us. For millions of years, we were known as the blackheads, because you could look down at us and see our dark hair. And if we didn't have hair, you could see our skull was dark. The skin on our skull was dark. So we were called the darkheads. Okay. It took me a long time to realize that the Chinese people used to be called Kafirs. What are Kafirs? Kafir means black. I mean, it's just, it is how the system massages things, and you end up taking or incorporating 70% of something that is inaccurate and misleading with the 30% that is correct, but they don't give you the full content. And let's talk about this. You have a calendar. It's 12 months in a calendar. It's 4 weeks in a month. If you multiply 4 by 12, you come up with 48. How is it we have 52 weeks in a year? Think about that. Come on now. Think about it. Here you are, 4 weeks in a month, 12 months. 12 times 4 is 48. What happened to the other month? There are 13 months. Okay. The word
those 4 weeks was just change.
Right. Yeah, they add a
12
weekend.
months and change.
You know, that's why they had that little poem for 30 days, half September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31 except for February in line, which on leap has 29. So that is how we learn to understand the calendar. Okay. How you understand music? They tell you FACE. Every good boy does fine, or the lines, 5 lines and 4 spaces. FACE. Memory tools. They give you memory tools. Now here's a memory tool. October. Octagon. How many arms does an octopus have? 8. How is October the 10th month of the year? You see what I'm saying? You have lost your ability to discern certain things.
let me
Okay.
let me let me ask you, and you are definitely someone uh that makes me think twice when I say certain things. And
I want to do that
because
too.
because I know that language and understanding what you're saying is so important, and definitely you could be saying something and your intention to say or come across to someone is one way, but the way they'll perceive it or understand what you're saying could
Right.
be totally opposite. Let me
And
ask you,
mhm.
you gave me some good jewels last night when you said to me something, and I want you to share with the audience what you were talking about when you're talking about karma, revealing your own karma, creating your own karma.
Mhm.
I need you to explain that if you don't mind.
Okay, everyone feels that karma is when something happens to you that is incorrect and out of your control. And the laws of life, God, however you perceive it, punishes those people. Well, that's not exactly how that works. If you, karma, California, we're going to talk about the karma of California. The people in the state of California took a no position against the folks that they elected to key offices. So, therefore, what we see now is the karma that was created by everybody that lived there in California that took a no position against the um, ridiculous mindset of their politicians. Politicians are nothing but policy enforcers. They write policy, they live by the policy, and if the policy is ridiculous, you need to call them on it. I'm in Missouri, the show me state. When policy is written, our people will go to Jefferson City and clown. I have seen it with white folks, black folks, Hispanic people, Japanese. Ooh, don't write that policy because it doesn't make sense. It's not working. And we're going to show up and let you know. And then we definitely let you know because we will vote you out. California didn't do that. So the fires that you have now, and everybody's talking, oh, it's so terrible. But walk backwards 5 to 6 years, you had fires. You had blue beams coming out of the sky, and there were fires all in the Napa Valley. Did we forget that? That's your karma. Your karma is saying, I plan not to do anything. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to talk about anything. We're not going to find a way to discuss this. um, I'm not going to even think about it. I'll just wash my hands of it because I can't be confrontational. Nobody's asking you to be confrontational. What we're asking you is to be sound and sane. And when you are sound and sane, you have every right to question certain things. So if you already had fires and they were in the Napa Valley, the richest place where there's lots of wine and all the water was used up, and you had all this craziness. And it's not like California didn't know. It's just here recently, even I found out that California, the core of California, sat on a lake, a huge lake, which is now buried underground. And they'll try to make you believe that there's no water there. There's tons of water. It's in a lake that they buried underground, like Missouri did. We had a major lake like river called the DePere. Every time we had a major storm, whether it was snow or rain, that that water would rise and people's basements would be like a swimming pool. And so to control that, they put it underground. But Missouri is fortunate. We sit on the Red River, the Missouri River, the Mississippi. There's 7 rivers that come through here. And so we will always have water that comes to the top, matriculates to the top. California had that huge lake and they buried it so that they could have greater control over the land that they put on top. And they'll have you believing there's no water. It was fresh water.
Mm,
Okay. What people there failed to do was that a lot of people moved there from places like the Midwest or, out of your state along the Eastern Seaboard. And they wanted California to have grass. California's not known for grass. I know y'all laugh because you look at it now and see the grass. That has been transplanted there. California is very much a mountainous, desert-like environment. And the desert's beautiful. Most people don't realize the desert has rainy seasons 3 times a year. And when it rains, it's a deluge. And the whole part of the desert turns beautiful colors because there's plant life down there that only activates when it receives water. And you'll have all these beautiful looking plants and flowers, and they're just beautiful. So if you had left California like that, then the people would not have a water problem that they have today. The karma is because those that moved there took a laissez-faire. Oh, I ain't got time for that. That's not important to me. I want to know if I'm going to get a raise. All of the other superficial things became important. And when it became important, you negated your own emotional needs. That's your karma. Your karma depicts your emotional needs. And so you neglected them. And when you needed them the most, in your most senior years, the fire comes along and burns your house down. And they're trying to tell you all of it was Gavin Newsom, but he couldn't be governor if you didn't elect him. So that's your karma. You created that karma by not doing your due diligence. When he started talking out the back of his neck, saying, all of these transgendered and all whatever he, believed in, and nobody questioned him, you just automatically make
even
law.
like you said, when they allowed, and even when he got in position, the diversion of their water system. From what I understand, 80% of their water is privately owned. How y'all allow that to happen?
Right. How does the planet become privately owned? The planet existed long before we came. So how does it become privately owned? Do you have the ability to create water? I know I don't. I mean, I understand the science behind it, but I can't just flick my fingers and, hey, it's raining, we got water. No. Even in the divineness of God, there are principles and guidelines you have to go by. And when you understand those principles and guidelines, that means you are enlightened. We are woke but not enlightened because we don't understand the principles and processes and guidelines we need to go through in order to achieve an end result. So the end result there was their karma, their inability to take action to make sure that future events would be beneficial to them and not detrimental to them. This is just like in Hawaii.
Yeah.
All the houses that were blue, painted blue, or had a blue roof, didn't burn down. Please explain that to me. And here's the next thing you all may not be aware of. The day before all of this happened, insurance policies were dropped or discontinued.
And they even tried to, I know, I don't want to take the conversation there, but they even tried to say that the insurance companies is their fault. And I actually heard one of the guys from one of the insurance companies out there, he explained why they did it. He said basically, when you trying to insure the property, it's certain things that have to be put into play. Like, for most people that don't know, if you live, of course, anywhere on the Eastern Coast, if the United States government is trying to buy up all the property on the coast because they're tired of paying flood insurance. So what he was saying was the state of California was not doing preventive measures on their end to make sure that these homes could be protected because of nature taking over with these fires.
Okay, so let me do this. I beg to differ. And the insurance companies know I'm going to argue with them tooth and nail. Why? Because In Florida, you had the Everglades. What was the purpose of the Everglades? Is to keep you from being flooded, and you removed them.
Mm-hmm.
In California, you had sand barges, sand banks. What did you do? You removed them. The insurance companies paid to have this stuff done. Don't pretend this is something that's bothering you. The only reason it's bothering you is because that new CEO that you moved up in Prudential or Travelers or whoever the insurance company is got a $47 million raise. And you got to pay him. So you're going to rob Peter, which are all of the people that buy insurance from you, to pay Paul. What you need to do, people, is to sue Paul. Sue him, sue the insurance company, sue all of their little providers, which are their agents, and let's see how that money shows up.
Mm.
That money will show up. That man will take a major pay cut. You will see a lot of them commit suicide. I'm not trying to be funny, but I've seen that in my lifetime.
Very common. Very, very, very common that happens, right?
So the bottom line is that we create our karma. Now there is karma, but it's always created. There are the institution of chattel slavery that will produce a karma that we're seeing now.
Mm.
We're looking at it. We're looking at how our palm colored people and where they're thinking, their children, all of that, we're seeing that. We're also seeing it among many of our fraternities and sorority brothers and sisters, where they are so rooted in a hate-based ideology that they have to go after. When they realized Black people were voting for Donald Trump, they came after us hands down. And I laugh. But this is the karma you create. So there are people's, institutions, individuals that can create some traumatic blowback, and it becomes very karmic. Karma doesn't hit you. It hits all the people behind you.
Mm.
Okay. Look at The View.
When we just, yeah, this is what we discussed, you guys, in the chat. Sister
Right.
Azima gave me this scenario last night before I went to bed, and I thought about it all night and while I was at work today. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so at The View, we know how much vitriol they said about Trump. So let's back this train up. Trump supported the Rainbow Coalition. He gave Jesse Jackson money to run for president. He stood with Don King when Don King couldn't get space in the arena because of the color of his skin. He had all of his boxing events at Donald Trump's casinos. He's a businessman, and they think entirely different. They think about the bottom line, how it's going to benefit them. They don't see color, they don't see gender, they don't see any of that stuff. You walk around naked. If you can make me $1 million in 12 months, I'll do business with you. That's how they think. They are the reason so many things move forward. They are your entrepreneurs. They are the adventurers. They're the ones that become trailblazers. And it doesn't matter what ethnic group they're with.
Unfortunately, you guys, Sister Azima froze again. We'll be right back. You go, Sister Azima.
Okay, so The View was bought up by, um, I forgot the name of the company. It was bought out and it would only be seen on the weekends now. In that process, they did not renew the contract with Whoopi Goldberg, not at all. Also, they did not give Sunny Halston as lucrative of an opportunity, and I'm not even sure if she will be there. So, what happens to Sunny? Sunny's husband and 200 other orthopedic doctors, hospitals, and other medical entities are facing a multi-million, well, it might be billions now, lawsuit with ACT. One, they're the ones that insure taxi cab drivers and Lyft and Uber drivers, bus drivers as well. She was on television bemoaning her situation. Out of her mouth came, my husband, as you all know, is a doctor. He's an orthopedic. He works with people that have major and crushing um, bone problems, spinal injuries, and they don't always have insurance. And he would go ahead and operate and find a way to get that money from insurance companies. And I thought, oh my God, that's her karma. That's her karma speaking. Speaking truth, because the karma is going to make you speak the truth, whether you like it or not. So she goes on to say this. And she said, I love him. I'm going to stand by him. This doesn't make sense. People shouldn't be coming after him for that. And I'm thinking, you kind of went after Donald Trump and Donald Trump's wife, even their son, Barron. You said some horrible things. So here we are. You're standing there live TV. And you said, my husband did operate on those people. And he worked with those other 200 agencies, entities, and healthcare providers to file claims to get paid. I'm like, karma.
Do you think the karma? Let me ask you, because I know you said it, and it's a rhetorical question, but it's deep. How the karma was coming so swift for her that she didn't even realize that she was incriminating him with what she was saying on live air with millions of people who work for insurance companies, who are surgeons, doctors, knowing that you can't green light without a payment.
Mm-hmm.
And here it is, his wife is sitting up there because she thinks she's the greatest lawyer that ever lived, that she's sitting up there incriminating him with a scam
Mm-hmm.
and not even realizing it.
Well, it didn't come as fast as you think. Well, that part didn't. Remember when I said karma comes for your family?
Mm-hmm.
Her first karma, she was supposed to do some voiceover work for Disney. The contract, those people dropped her. I mean, they dropped her so fast. You thought she was, what's that guy, Flash or the Flame? That's how bad they got rid of her. Okay. She was to be at the Global Awards, and she was supposed to be a presenter. That dried away. She had two other ventures. One was a book deal and then something else. All of them just evaporated. But she still hunkered down with her vitriol about Donald Trump. She would never stop. So then karma reached back and started slapping her family. Stuff was going on within her family, around her children. This came to be because they started investigating him about 2 or 3 years ago. And that's how they were able to get as much information, including the hospitals that participated, all of the other medical entities and agencies, organizations, and individuals. But everybody pointed their finger at him as the one who was spearheading it, because he was showing them how to massage this system and get these payments. Um, and the problem is that the people that he's supposed to be helping, I understand a lot of them, bone problems don't just go away quickly. Sometimes you have to go back in. And they started going to other doctors because he refused to take them back. And that's when they found out they didn't have any more coverage. And that led to all of this investigation. And I mean, they were very closed mouth about it. And now she's out here hurting him. And she's just saying all of these things because karma, when it comes to you, you can't remove the truth. That's the whole point. When karma comes, it comes. Whether you want to admit to it or not, all the things that you've done, it's going to flash before you. And you're going to see it, slow motion. Because I've heard a lot of people say, my God, there are things that you said to me, I dismissed it and so forth and so on. But it came back to me and it was horrible. It was worse than I thought. It's only because that you created that environment. So by you creating that environment, that's the karma that comes back to you. Now you've heard people and you've seen all these, I don't want to call them horror stories, but these end of life, near death things where people said, oh my God, my grandfather, all of a sudden he's in the hospital. He's real sick. He's dying. And he's in there screaming at the top of his lungs. And we go in and we see this dark shadow and all this stuff hanging over him. And he's begging us to not let those things take him. That's his karma, punishing himself. You know it. You know that sometimes you've done some things that's very questionable and stuff starts happening and you're like, oh my God, I didn't pay attention.
I don't put. It happened to me this morning. Believe it or not, I was
And
call myself giving somebody some advice, and when they in their response triggered my anger button, and I'm like, oh, you ain't gonna do it? They're like, no, I ain't doing it. I'm like, oh, let me go back, right? So I go back, I sit back in the truck. I'm like, you know what? It's not him, it's me. That's why I should just be minding my business, stop trying to help somebody, because that is not my responsibility. Here it is, I'm thinking I'm helping. Instead, I'm the one walking away angry because he got smart.
Right.
Instead, just let things just go the way it's going, worry about me.
Right. And you know, your role here, all of our role, everybody's role on this planet is to be able to teach people how to fish. Take that adage to heart. If you can teach a person, if you know how to drive a car, fly a plane, be a homemaker, a doctor, a nurse, lawyer, Indian chief, whatever, you have the skill set to teach someone else those things. The patience that they need, the ability to be flexible, because the only thing that's going to change in life is change. That's the only thing that's predictable, is change. So if you have the ability to be flexible and the adaptability, you'll be around a long time. You don't have to. The only time you have to guide people is when these are babies, children. They need guidance because they are not at a point where, even if it's an old soul, and we've seen that, girl, that baby's act like an old soul. He may be an old soul, but he's in a new body. And somebody has to guide them to a certain level of development.
You should have seen. You should have seen me. I was hot too. I was. My partner. He comes to the truck. He like, yo, what's wrong? I was like, man, this MF pissed me off, and this, that, and third. He like, what happened? I was like, look, I was trying to help him get some money.
Okay.
But
it wasn't your place. So
it wasn't.
That's why the thing happened like it did. And we have to recognize that.
It wasn't my place.
You have to recognize it.
It wasn't my place. And then I called the guy because the guy was calling me to get somebody to come with him. So
Okay.
the other guy would have been able to make some money. So
Hmm.
instead, right, I when I got to where I was going,
Hmm.
I called the guy and said, "Look, I asked the guy to go. He said no. I said, please don't put me in this position no more. I said, if you need me and I can do it, I'll go with you. Don't worry about it.
Hmm.
I'll go." And then
Hmm.
next thing I know, I ain't have no phone service for about 7 hours, so he couldn't call back. couldn't
Right.
couldn't
Because
do nothing.
it wasn't meant for him. See, he overstepped. He created that karma for himself because he
Yeah,
overstepped his bounds and
yeah,
came.
but yeah,
Uh-huh.
it was legitimately about some money. Some like he was able to make some money. And then the craziest thing about it, right, Sister Azema,
Hmm.
once he realized why he told me no, and then
Hmm.
it didn't work out the way he anticipated,
Hmm.
he still made the money. And then and tomorrow he'll probably be like, "Yeah, Q, yo, my bad, Joe. I know you was trying to look out." I'm gonna tell him like, "Look, don't take this the wrong way. I'm just not gonna do it anymore. I'm just not." Like you said, sometimes once you could teach a person how to fish, just leave them alone.
Leave him alone because they'll make it happen. There's trial and error with anything. It's like riding a bike, driving a car, skating. There's trial and error. And
Yeah.
then they'll figure out, I can't do it your way. I have to do it my way, which works best for me. And it works out best for them. So you've already done, you've already met your obligation. You fulfilled your duty with them.
And that was, Sister Azima, that was one of my things this week was under trying to get a better understanding of advice. Because I noticed that a lot of people we get advice from friends, family, significant other,
Mhm.
strangers. How do we and so I presented the question, how do we know whose advice to take? What criteria is it based on? And I wonder because sometimes you could generally have good intentions for someone,
Mhm.
you give them advice, they don't listen. But then somebody else that they're trying to be favor under, they'll listen to their advice all day long, and they don't. The person whose advice they listen to don't know what the hell they talking about.
Okay, then everybody knows something. That's the first thing. There's 6 degrees of separation between all of mankind, always. Even when we're intermarrying, intermingling, there's 6 degrees of separation. Even within your family, you know that there's some family members you just cannot talk to them. But if you really need something and you know they're capable of doing that, you go to the family member that can talk to them on your behalf and you plant the seeds there and they go and take care of it. And then, it doesn't come as fast as you want, but it'll come on time when you need it. Okay. So there's always people out there, and that's a hard lesson to learn. It was a hard lesson for me to learn that there's always people out there, whether you know them or not, that can do something to help you. You just you have to say when you need something. Like when I really need something, I always say divine presence. Everything I have, everything I need, I already have. Everything I desire, I'm coming to you to meet that requirement. Here is what I need. When you open the pathway, and that's what you have to say. Open the pathway to the right source for me to achieve X, Y, and Z. Divine for me is divine order. If you call it Jesus, whatever, ask them to open the pathway for you to be able to get the resources that you need. Send me to the right person.
Oh, she froze right in the middle of about to go in. All right, you guys. Hopefully this will be the last time she freezes.
Okay. So that is what you do. You have to ask um, to put you in the right place with the right people to receive the right sources for whatever it is you're trying to achieve, a down payment for a home, a down payment for a car, a school loan, whatever it is. You must ask to be placed in the right place with the right people at the right time. And
Mm,
that you thank all of all of the energies, your ancestors, the current energies that are working with you to have that accomplished. Okay. You're asking in advance because you will definitely need transportation by June or by May, whatever it is. And those things do come. But we're not taught how to do prayer. We're not taught how to access. We're woke because everybody's talking all this woke stuff, but not all of us are enlightened and we don't have the tools.
take a
And that,
nap every now and then. You ain't gotta be woke all the time.
okay, I agree with that. We do need to be able to. I agree with you. Taking a nap that really makes a big difference. When babies take naps, when they wake up, they're ready. So when senior citizens take naps, they wake up, they're ready. They're clear, concise. So yeah, that's what we need. We need to understand that we have been manipulated so long and so hard. And when I say long, I mean 5 to 7,000 years. You have been manipulated with, you know, 10 ounces of truth and 32 pounds of a lie. Okay, that's funny. Biden's been taking naps. It's not working for him. But what happens is that because the misinformation is so embedded, it's very hard. Like I said, September means seven, but it's the ninth month. October is eight, and we made that the 10th month. November means nine, and December means 10, but it's the 12th month. And November is the 11th month. And when you have people that decide to put themselves in certain positions, um, and then they strong arm you into adhering to that, over time, when you repeat something long enough, folks begin to believe it.
Mm,
Okay, the Hegelian principle is there's a hierarchy of needs: food, shelter. Um, what is it? We need food. Oh, and a way to protect ourselves. So you need food, security, and shelter. However, there are also part of that is that if you tell a lie often enough, people will begin to believe it. Now we've seen that story about the boy that cried wolf.
yeah,
Remember? There's a wolf.
we were all taught that as children, right?
Okay. Well, what it's telling you is that if you lie long enough, people will believe you. And the little boy lied. I mean, he lied. The wolf was coming. Finally, when the wolf did come, nobody believed it. Everybody turned their back on him because he created a karma that allowed him to be seen as dishonest, distrustful.
Mm,
That everything he says or does is harmful. Okay,
mm,
and we've seen that. We've
yeah.
seen where family members come along, and I'm gonna give this parable. I remember it coming out of the mouth of several religious people. The story was there was a person in the town that hated the minister. He could be a priest or whatever, but they hated this religious man who was over the church. They said a lot of harmful, hateful things about him, like we saw with the View. Um, in the end, it damaged his credibility and it hurt the church, and the man had to step down from the church because he wanted the church to succeed. As time went on, the person who created this heinous act um, had to come back and apologize. The man said, I will accept your apology only on these conditions. I want you to buy a pillow that's filled with feathers from a duck or a goose. I want you to cut that pillow open on a windy day and shake it. And then in 2 days, I want you to go and pick up every one of those feathers. That could never be. And the man said, I can't, that's not possible. He said, correct. So all the harmful things that you said about me can't be erased. Someone
Mm,
will hear them. Someone's going to continue on with that lie. And you want me to forgive you. I forgive myself, but
mm,
I will never forget what you've done.
mm,
And that's the whole purpose. You're here to forgive yourself so that you don't carry the anger and the hatred. But you don't have to forget what was done. You know, they blow off Black Lives Matter. Well, Black Lives Matter, Trayvon and Mike were related. It was grassroots. George Soros only came in at the very end with these three black females whose fathers were Jewish, who believed in fascism and Marxism and things like that. And he tried to make it seem, and here we go again, they made it seem, those organizations of white people who wanted to tell us that black lives don't matter. All lives matter. Well, that is true, but not all lives are chattel slavery, and not all lives have to endure 400 to 500 years of it, of the vitriol that you all have spilled out. Okay, so what happens is that does have an effect. It creates post-traumatic slave disorder. That's what I'm calling it. Because if all you see on television, every major holiday, Juneteenth, we got every slave story you can think of on TV. I'm not interested in that. Why aren't we talking about, Thomas Peterson and Mr. Greenfield that built the first car? We only know about Ford. Why don't we give credit to the brother who gave them the filament for the light bulb? Hmm? Or the black people that invented the soaker gun?
mm.
Or the lady who worked for NASA that gave you GPS, global positioning systems? We never hear about those people. But I can tell you everything about Roots. I can tell you everything about Color Purple. I can tell you everything about Queenie. That's a karma that the oligarchy or system is trying to keep embedded in you. Why? Because it keeps you a victim.
Uh, you answered my
You
question.
agree, Black?
Oh,
Yes,
you,
it keeps
you
you a
answered my
victim.
question.
Okay. I go on every time I get a chance. And my father invented the paper bag machine, Samuel Kennedy, but you'll never hear
And it's
about it.
and it's amazing. It's a major, literally 10 minutes from my
You use
house.
every day. It's a
A
bag you
major.
use every day, whether it's
It's
plastic or paper. He invented it because he was tired of seeing the black women who had to put their hands into the machine where the blades were and lose their fingers to fold the bag down and glue it.
and every time you say that about your dad, the first thing I think of 10 minutes from my house is a major paper bag company in this area, and I just say to myself, because I see it when I drive out that way, I got to
Right.
drive past it. I just shake my head like, wow. But you're right. Those are stories, and that having talking about those positive, high vibrational stories, and sharing that karma, sharing that energy, sharing that what we would say inspiring and inspirational stuff about our people
Mhm.
should be highlighted more.
Okay, so let's talk about critical race theory. All this relates to being enlightened. They're going to tell you it's about teaching about slavery and interfering. Critical race theory came on the heels of the civil rights movement. Hear me clearly. When enough black attorneys and lawyers decided to go back and look at what we call the blue code laws, because Missouri had a whole bunch of them. And a lot of the states do still have these laws. A marriage license was never issued to people until you began to marry across the color line. And they needed a way to recognize who was marrying. You know, what white woman was marrying what black man? What black man was marrying what white woman? And so with that, they created the whole marriage thing. And that was a way to determine, well, if these people are going to have children, how are we going to classify them? And that's where we got to, not the 3/5 of the man law, but we got to colorization of America. And there are books out there, read about it, colorization of America. And that is where they decided you were an octroon or a quartertroon. And I'm like, what? What? And that was based on the bloodline of the father. Because you see, in America, the children took on the identity of the father. So now you're married to a black woman. Does that make your children white? Because I laugh. Because looking at me, and when you look at my sister's identified as white. And I laugh. We came from the same mother and father. But she has blonde hair, very fair skin, and she's classified as white. And we laugh about it. I had a twin, not my twin, I had twin brothers. So one of the twin brothers looked exactly like her. My other twin brother looks exactly like me. And it was very funny because they were classified as white. And my dad was dark brown. And my mother was my complexion. So I think it's funny. Okay. And this is how people, cultures, or societies who felt inferior to melanated skinned people decided how they would handle it. That's their karma. And so now their karma is coming back to roost. Because you went out of the way to say that you're an octroon, you're a quartertroon, you're this, you're a mulatto. Where do these names come from? Because mulatto means brown. Negro, la negro means black. Study the history of all the words Douglas and Mac. All of those mean black. Okay, the original Germans were black. They were descendants of Akhenaten. And so what happens is that in your enlightenment, because you're not giving all of the history, you don't even take it upon yourself to want to learn, to be inquisitive. Okay, so there was, True Line Johnson, the super soaker. Yeah, okay. So we have a lot of people that have invented a lot of things. The first rover that went to Mars was designed by a black brother and sister. So and then you have to go back and look at names. Schwarzenegger. Does anybody know what that name means? Because I'm going to tell you. Schwarzenegger comes from the word swarthy, which means to be black, to be dark brown, to be ebonite. Negra means you're coming from the land of the Niger, the black land. So you're a black man.
Black Larry know what it mean. He know black. You mean black.
Right. So, so Schwarzenegger just means black. And so if we don't learn our words and the origin and how we use them, the word the, nobody can tell me what it means. They'll tell you it's a word to connect a sentence or to begin a sentence. It's derived from the word thoth. Thoth.
We're gonna have to get into some etymology soon again.
Yeah, I won't keep you all long, but I'm just saying we are in a state of being woke, but we're not enlightened because we don't choose to research the information. And because the information has been misled, misguided,
Sister Azima froze again, you guys. We're gonna close out when she comes back. So if you got any questions for Sister Azima before she close out, just present it now so I can give it to her when she comes back on. I got a couple questions for you before we close out.
Yes.
Black Lion said, "Are we getting a part 2?"
Yeah, we will. We will have part 2.
Hopefully, Black Lion. What Sister Azima and myself were trying to do is we had tried to figure out if we were going to try to do it every other Tuesday or every Tuesday. And basically, I'll be honest with you. That is the chat's call. Sister Azima said to me, she's available, and that means available for the foreseeable future. So I would like to have her on as much as we can. So, but that's really up to you guys in the chat and how she's perceived and whether we're getting the information that she's presenting. Okay, he got another question. We are moving beyond wokeness.
Yes, we are.
There's
and
Rodney.
That enlightenment will take us to the next realm of ascension.
Oh, okay.
The
Rodney.
next realm, and we have to talk about that.
No, this is what we're going to talk about this next week.
Right. We're going to talk about that. The
Brown Girl Boston done came in with her stuff. Are we going to revisit our list of plus and minuses?
Yes, ma'am. That's when you need it the most, when we are in the height of ascension. Because the things that you cannot carry with you, the emotions that you should not take with you, you're going to have to scratch them off that list.
Are we melanated folks leading the charge?
Yes. In the respect that we are calm as a collective body of people. We have the hidden knowledge. Look at the Dogon. For years, they told, the white scientists all about Sirius. And they were like, what they know? So what's happening is that all around the world where they have now gone to these places, Coatzacoalcos, all down in Mexico, South America, up in the area that they say is the Middle East, but it's just the northern part of Africa. We're going to have to look at geography. We're going to have to understand how that works. And then we're going to talk about how the whole planet itself is vibrating to a new level of dissension. And we're going to talk about next time. Know these numbers, 7.83 hertz. That's the frequency of our planet. That's also the frequency that your pineal gland vibrates within the brain. That's why you are how you can be in this world and not particularly of it. But it's also the method by which we can talk to the God force, the divine principles, the one, the all-knowing. That is how. Okay. And we will talk about that.
I'm laughing because Black Laren, you're asking, and Sister Drea, you guys asked questions to Sister Azima. That's some of the things that she loves to talk about. She loves to talk about frequencies, and she loves to talk about her etymology and understanding. And like I said, she always gets on me about the words and how we use language and how the example that she gave earlier, how words have changed over time.
Right.
And if you don't understand the origin of these words and how people have changed them over time, you don't know what's being said for you, to you, or about you.
Correct.
So with that, Sister Azima, you have any final thoughts final advice you want to give us?
It's They say it's a new year, but the new year always begins in the spring. So March is really officially the beginning of the new year. And most people around the world celebrate it at that time. This new year is based on Roman law. It deals with how to make money. And that is why many businesses do their best business in December and January with all those great discounts, but they're not really discounts. They just mark it up to bring it back down to the original price, and you buy it thinking it's a discount. So it's a financial piece. And we want to talk about how that's going to affect us going in here with the new guy, Trump, in my opinion. What I've read and researched is my opinion. But we need to know that because you are now in a place where you can open the doors for the new ascension.
With that, you
Thank
guys,
you all. Happy New Year.
when there's anybody that sees on playback, remember the best way to support the channel is to like, share, subscribe. As I always say, the best way to support is to support. Like, I appreciate you all, and we will see you next Tuesday. Take
Okay.
and see you guys then.
To time out.